It's not a good look, and it puts your buddy Nick Wright in a terrible spot because I spent all day yesterday saying, oh, he didn't get arrested like Julian Edelman, and the moment I get off the show, Odell's been arrested for smacking the butt of a security guard.
That's why you really have an issue with it, though.
You really put me in a bad way.
You put me in a bad spot. Exactly. But listen, man, I think this is much ado about nothing. Everybody knows that Odell's behavior is unacceptable. He shouldn't have slapped the security officer on the backside, but does it rise to the level where you really need to issue an arrest warrant?
When I thought it was a cop,
that part bothers me.
When the initial reports were it was a police officer,
yeah,
then you put your hand on a cop in any way, you're going to get arrested.
Sure.
So a rent-a-cop,
On to the Dallas Cowboys now. The newly hired Mike McCarthy
is hassling these guys. They're smoking cigars. Joe Burrow's allowed to smoke a cigar in peace.
It's a fire hazard, you guys.
Oh, it's a fire hazard.
Retained offensive coordinator Kellen Moore will continue to call plays next season. That, according to Mike McCarthy. Dallas led the NFL in yards in 2019. Candy, you like this for the Cowboys? Kellen Moore still calling plays?
No, I don't like it, Jenna, because I feel like this is the owner, Jerry Jones, overstepping once again. You got a new head coach, but it's the same old Jerry. In fact, Mike McCarthy would probably prefer to have the opportunity to call plays, but Kellen Moore was retained on the staff, and the fact that he's going to be the play caller, to me, this has Jerry Jones' fingerprints all over it. And again, you can't undermine your head coach, especially when you're a team that has championship aspirations.
I agree with you, it has Jerry Jones' fingerprints written all over it, but don't you think this came up in the interview process? Don't you think Mike McCarthy took the job knowing that this was a prerequisite? Because I do. I don't think he sprung it on him at the end, and if that is the case, then McCarthy signed up for it, so I can't take big issue with it.
Well, whether McCarthy signed up for it or not, the result is the same. I don't care about it. I mean, if Mike McCarthy wants to call plays and you think that he's the guy to take your team to a Super Bowl, then give him the autonomy to handle his staff the way that he wants.
I think Jerry thinks Kellen's his next Jason Garrett, but the problem is, do you want the next Jason Garrett?
That didn't work out the last time when Wade Phillips was the head coach and Jason Garrett was the OC.
Unbelievable.
All right, on to the Packers and 49ers now in the NFC Championship on Sunday on Fox. When these teams faced off back in Week 12, there was no contest. San Francisco took the lopsided win. Aaron Rodgers had a game to forget by all accounts, but he says he's using what happened then as motivation now.
I think if you look at this game, they're definitely favored by, 7 at halftime, is that right? So they're, obviously expected to hold court and win, and people know and are talking about how we played the last time. So I think if you look at pressure, the pressure's in a certain place, and we should be nice and loose.
Well, easier said than done. Do you agree with Aaron Rodgers? The pressure is with the other guys?
I think the pressure's with the 49ers, but I think there's very unique pressure on Rodgers. I think there's very unique pressure on Rodgers because...
Rodgers himself.
Yes, yeah. I think team-wise, way more pressure on the Niners. They've been the better team. They already beat them. They're at home. They're favored. Individually, there is more pressure on Aaron Rodgers than there is anyone else involved in this football game. Any coach, any other player, because he's the oldest person involved of any that has any real account for the game, and he is the one with the biggest legacy. And that's how this always works, is that the guys who have been the best have the most pressure on them to continue being the best, and the guys who have the most to gain have the most pressure. I think Kyle Shanahan, John Lynch, Jimmy Garoppolo, the kind of triumvirate in San Francisco, rightfully believe we should win this game. We should go to the Super Bowl. We should maybe even win the Super Bowl. But if we don't, we're going to be right back around here next year. This is we have been building towards this year. This is the first year in our window. I think Aaron Rodgers probably looks at it as, man, I'm going to be 37 next season. Last year, I got hurt the first week of the year, played through it, but it clearly hampered my play. The year before that, Anthony Barr lands on me, snaps my collarbone. The year is ruined. A few years before that, I get my collarbone broken, and even though he came back and they made the playoffs, I think he knows, man, if I don't cash in on this opportunity, how many more opportunities am I going to have? So I think there is and he also knows, Canty, the Niners have a lot of ways to win. Green Bay's got one. I've got to be sensational. I have to avoid the rush. I have to hit every open receiver and a bunch of not open receivers. So I think there is unique pressure on Rodgers individually, even if the overall pressure's on the favored home team #1 seed.
Yeah, there's pressure on both sides, albeit it's very different. For Aaron Rodgers, he's trying to get back to the big game, and you recognize that this might be his last best chance in order to get that done. You're a 13-win team for a reason. You look at the offense and you look at the skill positions that they've tried to surround him with. I think he's probably got one of the better supporting casts that he's had this decade, because you got a 1,000-yard rusher in Aaron Jones, and you still have Devontae Adams, who is a bona fide #1 receiver. And then, of course, defensively, even though they're not great, they do have the ability to be disruptive and pressure the opposing quarterback. So I do think things are set up for Aaron Rodgers to be able to have success, and I think that Aaron Rodgers is equipped to be able to handle the pressure, knowing that this is one of the better teams that he's had around him this entire decade. Now, when you look at the 49ers, that to me is the biggest question. How do they deal with the pressure? Because this is a young team. This is their first rodeo in being in a championship game atmosphere. And I don't think you can prepare for the intensity, the overall nerves, the anxiety that you're going to feel when you go out there and you take that field. So I wonder how Kyle Shanahan is going to get his team settled down in this game early. More importantly, I wonder how he's going to get his quarterback settled down early, because we all talked about it. The only question mark about this San Francisco 49ers team is whether or not you can trust the quarterback. It's a championship roster when you look at all the other position groups.
And it feels like for the Packers, the only area that's not a question mark is the quarterback position. You almost have this feel like the game means more for Aaron Rodgers himself than it does for the Green Bay Packers, just because of where he came from and what lies in front of him.
Yes, this is the same thing with LeBron. Like with before he got to the Lakers. Lakers, different story kind of. But with the finals against the Warriors, where it was the Warriors against LeBron. It was a referendum on him. It wasn't a referendum on the Cavs. And I understand the Packers are a historic organization, but they don't have any historic players or coaches on that team other than Aaron. They have some good players, and Matt LaFleur might turn into a historic coach. Who knows? Win a Super Bowl your first year. It's a hell of a start. But Aaron's got so much to gain here. In that, I was discussing earlier, one of only 4 quarterbacks ever with a 100 passer rating or above in the postseason. The other guys are Bart Starr, Kurt Warner, who made the Hall of Fame based on his postseason resume almost alone. No one won a couple league MVPs to go along with it. And surprisingly, Matt Ryan, who's been really good in the postseason, people forget about it. But Aaron, if they win the next 2 games, jumps a tier in my own make-believe, but I think it's the right one, quarterback pyramid. I mean, Aaron goes from the level where he is no question from there on better than Favre. I think he already is if you were to rank him 1 through 8. But this is of the last 50 years. And then you start having, to me, a real Aaron Rodgers, Peyton Manning conversation. Because Peyton Manning, while he had way more regular season records, almost all the regular season records, Peyton Manning's passer rating dropped to the mid-80s in the postseason for his career. It took him until year 6 before he had a single good postseason game, not postseason run. The year they won the Super Bowl, his first Super Bowl, his only Super Bowl in Indy, he threw more interceptions than touchdowns. He was just so good for so long, you knew he was going to cash in eventually. Finally, that Colts team had a good defense. Rodgers has been a sensational postseason quarterback. He is as talented to the eye test as basically any quarterback any of us have seen. If they win the Super Bowl, the other element of it is, while he won't say it publicly, he wins the argument about Mike McCarthy. That argument is now over forever. If the first year without McCarthy, when we were like, what's wrong with the Packers? Well, fair or not, what's wrong with the Packers becomes McCarthy was holding them back. And so there is immense amount on the board for Aaron Rodgers here if they can win this game as an upset and then as an underdog, and then they'll be underdogs in the Super Bowl against Kansas City. We already know that line would be around 4.5 points. So winning back-to-back games in upset fashion after beating Russell Wilson, kind of the new quarterback of the new era in the NFC, everything's on the table for him.
No, you're absolutely right. And bring up your quarterback pyramid. If Aaron Rodgers does pull this off and win the NFC Championship game, win a Super Bowl, that jumps him from 5th to third. That puts him ahead of Peyton Manning in my mind, just because of competitive greatness, being at your best when your best is required. Aaron Rodgers has been phenomenal in the postseason. If he does this, if he pulls this off, if they win the Super Bowl, it will be because Aaron Rodgers played really well. So that's their only path in order to be able to win a championship.
If they win the Super Bowl, you would go Brady, Montana, Rodgers.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Look, it's more work for us. You have to change the graphic, and then you have to change the triangle.
Where's Patrick Mahomes on there? He's coming. Oh, hey, there he is.
You got to get one first.
Chiefs hosting the Titans. So these two offenses have been doing what they do best in the playoffs so far. Mahomes lighting the Texans up through the air. Derrick Henry running through every opponent. However, the Titans are still heavy underdogs in this one. So, Nick, what has to happen for the Titans to win this game?
Okay, I think this is, to me, this is the best way to phrase this question. Because, obviously, I don't think the Titans will win. I think they are... I think the accurate line on this game should be about 13.5. I think the Chiefs are going to win by multiple scores. If they don't, if the Titans have won this football game, and I won't be here Monday, but somebody will be sitting in this seat explaining how it happens. Here's what happens. You win the turnover battle by at least 3. They won the turnover battle by the Ravens by 3, technically, de facto 5, though, because it was 3 turnovers to 0 plus 2 fourth down stops. So you had 5 times. You had multiple short fields. 3 of their 4 touchdowns came when they got the ball on the plus side of the 50-yard line where you didn't have to go the full field. Chris Jones, the Chiefs' best defensive player, doesn't play. And that opens things up for Derrick Henry. And yes, Derrick Henry continues his run, but I don't think that's enough, Canty. I think Ryan Tannehill has to have an extraordinary game. I don't think they can beat the Chiefs the way they beat the Patriots and the Ravens, where Tannehill throws for 7.5 completions per game. I think it has to be that Ryan Tannehill, who finished this year with the league's best passer rating, with the best yards per attempt. A.J. Brown became a superstar rookie. Jonnu Smith became an underrated tight end. I think all of those things have to happen for them to pull off this upset. I do not think they can win this game 24-21. One time in Patrick Mahomes' entire career, the Chiefs haven't scored at least 23 points. It was the game against Indy back early in the season. If the Titans win, it's going to be because they get into the 30s. To me, that's the only path. That means not only does Derrick Henry have to be great, Tannehill has to be sensational as well.
Yeah, if they get into the 30s scoring, then you got to anticipate a score on defense or special teams. That's got to be factored in as a part of the equation as well. But yeah, Derrick Henry has to have a phenomenal game, and the Titans have to play complementary football. So if you do get takeaways on the defensive side of the ball, being able to capitalize and score 7 rather than settling for 3, and that's exactly what they did against the Baltimore Ravens. All 28 points came off of turnovers, whether it's takeaways or turnovers on down. So to me, that has to be Tennessee's formula for success. We've seen them do it in the past, so it's not like they can't do it. It's not like it's outside of the realm of possibility. I think the big challenge for the Kansas City Chiefs is being able to starve the Tennessee Titans as far as giving the football away. Turnovers come in bunches. We say the same thing about sacks, but turnovers come in bunches. Sometimes you get on a streak where you get a bunch of them, but then sometimes you don't get any. And I think that the Chiefs, if they're going to have a chance to be able to finish this off and advance to the Super Bowl like we all anticipate them doing, they can't turn the football over.
Listen, you make such a good point. Let's not forget when they went into that Ravens game, we thought the Ravens were going to score a ton of points, and if they did, that Ravens defense was going to stop or slow them down. They would have to do something other than just keep handing the ball off to Derrick Henry, coming off what they did in the Patriots game, and they somehow found a way to disrupt exactly what the Ravens wanted to do and who the Ravens were. Why can't they do it again?
Because the Ravens are not built the way Kansas City is. The Ravens were not built to take advantage of Tennessee's biggest weakness, which is their secondary and their ability to defend deep down the field. And so you cannot beat the Chiefs by scoring 28 points. Not right now. Chiefs scored 28 points in 9 minutes against the Houston Texans. So that the question is, what has to happen? The Titans have to find their way to 35 points. Their field goal kicker, who amazingly has not kicked a field goal this season for them, they've only made 8 field goals as a team all year, has to have another game where he attempts no field goals. Every time they cross the 40, they're going to have to cash those in for touchdowns. This has to be a game of 7s, as their playoff games have been. I don't think they can do it, but that is the path for them if they are to do it.
For my sanity, for our relationship, I'm rooting hard for the Chiefs.
Oh, okay, that's great. I'm excited for that. The whole world should be rooting hard for the Chiefs. It's the best Super Bowl.
bubbling.
You want to see Mahomes in the Super Bowl, America.
Who's going to be in
Come
Miami
on.
for Super Bowl 54?
Come
That's still
on.
ahead on First Things First.
I hate that I got to be on the same side as
I
Nick,
know.
Jenna.
Oh, look.
I know, it's not
look.
bad.
Look at the quarterback pyramid. Look at Patrick. Look at Patrick sneaking around. I like that. Well done, Ermac.
Tonight, the Big Ten heats up as powerhouses face off on FS1. First, the Spartans look to take control of the conference as Cassius Winston piles up the points. Now they take aim at the Badgers. Then, the Wolverines face a tough road test against the Hawkeyes. A Big Ten doubleheader tonight. Wisconsin, Michigan State at 6:30 Eastern. Michigan, Iowa at 9 on FS1 and the Fox Sports app.
It's always a 3-day weekend at Golden Corral, featuring Fish Fry Fridays, Prime Rib Saturdays, and Carvery Sundays. 3 premium nights all year long. You can't beat 3-day weekends at Golden Corral, the only one for everyone.
There's nothing quite as magical as staying at a Disney Resort hotel. So imagine complimentary rides to and from the park, even extra time with your family in the park. And right now, you can save up to 25% on rooms at select Disney Resort hotels. So if you're not staying here, just think what you might be missing.
What's my safe flight story? My truck is my livelihood. So when my windshield cracked, the experts at Safe Flight Auto Glass came right to me.
Hi, I'm Adrian.
Oh, thanks for coming. With service I could trust. Right, girl?
Safe Flight Repair, Safe Flight Replace.
The Joseph A. Bank January Savings Event. Suits for $199. Dress shirts, sports shirts, pants, and sweaters for $39. All clearance and extra 60% off. The January Savings Event. Only at Joseph A. Bank.
It's good to be transparent.